TGIF Chicago, and welcome to the voice of the Chicago sports fan, Monsters of the Madhouse, brought to you by Chicago Sports Podcast. How you doing, everyone? Cleet Campbell, along with Mr. Chicago himself, Sean Lugo, with you on a big-time Friday night sports night in Chicago. Sean, my friend, how you doing?
Oh, living the dream, man. It's been a couple of weeks. We got a lot to talk about, and I missed everybody. So, hello, everybody.
Yes, it has been way too long. We've missed y'all, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Please be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and like us so you can get every podcast here on the Chicago Sports Podcast, Monsters of the Madhouse podcast family. And we have a ton of stuff, as Sean said, folks, going on. Indeed, it has been a whirlwind week for the Chicago Bears, who have re-energized their offense and their bearishly passionate fan base with arguably, Sean, the team's best draft of the 21st century. The man has come to town in Caleb Williams, the Bears' first overall pick in the draft since Bob Fenimore all the way back in 1947. Woo. The Bears have armed him with maybe the fastest Chicago football man since Hall of Famer Devin Hester in Rome Odunze. And we also have the Australian punting god, crocodile puntee, Roman and Torrey Taylor in the fold as well, Sean. Overall, it was a beautiful week for Bears Nation, and just I think maybe one of the best weeks in recent memory for this organization. Take us through your emotions, Sean, as you saw the picks come in, as you saw Caleb go 1, and then you see us arm him with Roman at 9, and then it just gets better and better. Torrey coming in, on day 3. Were you thinking what I was thinking, that this team? It seemed like we finally got it right. We finally hit the home run got the home run draft we've been looking for years.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you this. We had our River Street Draft Party, one of our favorite sponsors here for CSP. And I will tell you, the overwhelming, just the scream that came out of there, it's like we just won the Super Bowl. I mean, it was pretty awesome. And then to add Rome Odunze when he fell, when Atlanta decided that Penix was better than Odunze at 8, was like, oh, God is just blessing us with some more talent. So, yeah, that was fantastic. And, I mean, I'm very overwhelmed just looking at the whole the outcome of the draft, the overhaul of the entire roster. I mean, I don't know what's not to be excited about. There's more playmakers here than we've ever seen. There's more hope. We actually hopefully have our QB1 for the next decade. And hey, man, we're ready to roll. I'm super excited. I can't take the smile off my face.
I hear you. I'm right there with you, my friend. Ryan Poles was wheeling and dealing and channeling his inner Jim Finks. Everything he hit on, in my opinion, and pretty much everybody who was watching the draft was gold. USA Today's Nate Davis, folks, called the Bears draft the league's best by far. But let's go back to the chef, Caleb the Chef Williams. In the end, Sean, why was Caleb the right guy, not Jaden Daniels, not Drake Mayo, not Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy? Why was he the best guy for the Bears, not only to bet the top pick in the draft on, but their entire rebuild on?
Well, I'll say this. I've gotten into a lot of the all-22s on Shane Waldron and some of the Tim Jenkins breakdowns of the different quarterbacks. And honestly, Waldron, and for all the Fields lovers out there, I think when they brought Waldron in, I think that sealed the deal, because everything that Waldron does fits into what Caleb Williams does. The short passing game, the quick passing game that he utilized in college, deep passes. I think Waldron's offense was, I have it written down somewhere in my notes here, but he was top 5 in deep ball passing last year. Obviously Caleb Williams can throw a great deep ball. Yeah. He kind of brings you back a little bit, if I may say, to his he's kind of an eccentric extrovert in many ways. And I know there are some people that may have a problem with that, but I'll just say this, guys. We didn't have a problem with it when Dennis Rodman was here winning championships, doing the exact same thing. So I really like what he brings. I like his leadership too. I mean, when they started actually really going into him, I think at the beginning of this whole thing, it was the media maybe a little bit trying to tear him down, maybe trying to cause a little division and say, hey, maybe this isn't the guy, maybe this isn't the guy, you know. But as you kept going through and they started interviewing teammates and things, and everyone's like, yeah, none of this is true, man. This guy's a good leader. He's had our back. And I think those traits kind of showed out through time with polls and said, yeah, man, this is going to be our guy. We believe in him to lead us into the future.
Yeah, it's a good point, Sean. The most polarizing thing I think for Caleb Williams, particularly among Bears Nation coming in, as we talked about, was that swagger, was that
Yep.
moxie, was that supreme confidence. And, that can either rub people the right way or the wrong way. What I like about it, when I look at him, I see maybe our most self-assured quarterback since all the way back to the punky QB, Jim McMahon, during the 1980s glory runs. And,
Yep.
When you look at that, that's swagger. Now, yeah, he has to get there, like you say. It can rub people the wrong way, but we talk about you've got to have that winning attitude, and your entire organization feeds off that. Is that really going to be a huge factor, his swag, not only developing a confidence for this team, Sean, but also a culture change for this franchise?
I do believe. I really do. I mean, it's already started. I mean, before he was even drafted, it's just seeing him flying into the draft. I mean, him and Dunze together, like he had that swagger to throwing up the peace sign. I mean, he was just bringing it from the second. I mean, he was obviously living the greatest day of his life. He knew this is his number one goal in his life. I wanted to be the number one pick in the NFL draft. But outside of that, it's just around him. He has this aura about him that he can be a leader, that he can do it. And obviously he has to get out on the field and he has to prove it and show it. And I think he can with Waldron's offense, because again, I think it's tailored around what works. Waldron will tailor around what works for him.
Yeah.
And make him succeed. And I mean, look at the players around him. How can you not succeed? With Moore and Allen, and now you got a Dunze. Can you imagine these guys lining up on the same side of the field?
Yeah. And when you have that chemistry, I mean, we know there's sometimes quarterbacks and wide receivers, it takes them years to develop a chemistry, a rhythm where they know exactly what the other's thinking, how much touch you need to put on a deep ball. And the fact that they've never played a game together, there's not a doubt in my mind that these two already have it. They already have the instant chemistry where they can come out and they can be 100-yard passing per game force from week one.
I'll tell you, the first interview they did on the Score with Dunze, where they were talking about how many yards that is all time with Johnny Morris at 5,500, and just his whole reaction right there. He was like, for a career? I was like, dude, exactly. He was like, I'll top that. Both of these guys are bringing in that kind of that swagger, and if you go back to a Dunze at the draft combine when he was like working out, he wasn't happy with what he did. So I think it was his 40 timers, cone drill. I can't remember which one it was, but he was like, you know what, I'm going to stay and I'm going to make this better. And he did. And I mean, that's something you look for in a player. This guy seems to have a lot of heart. I was obviously on the, let's see how we can get Marvin Harrison. But at the end of the day, this guy could be better than Marvin Harrison. I guess only time will tell, but I don't think you're missing with any of these guys.
Well,
so.
I think you're right too. You look with Rome, you get the speed, you get that big physical prototypical receiver who can go up and win jump balls. I like a Marty Booker type player.
Yep.
And our good friend, thank you so much everybody for chiming in. Our good friend Cliff Victoria, talks about the moxie of Caleb. Saying I want to win 8 Super Bowls. I'm chasing Tom Brady. That's what you want. That's what you want. But then, Cliff also brings up a good point. He will only be effective as well as he protects him, as well as we protect him. And let's go to that protection. Let's go to that protection. Let's look what we did there. Do you like the young man from Yale we picked up in the 3rd round? Hometown kid, already bleeding Chicago Bears football. And are we in a position now where the line is always a work in progress with this generation of Chicago Bears? But do you think there's enough there right now to keep him up, keep him in games, and to keep Caleb producing for 17 weeks?
Well, let's dive into this one. Sharpen your pencils up here. I actually do. I really do. I like our tackles. I know there's some people who have problems with Braxton Jones. He's a middle of the road tackle, 5th round pick. But I went over his PFF numbers the other day. He allowed 2 sacks last year, 2 pressures. You're only as strong as your weakest link, and he is actually better on film when Tevin Jenkins is next to him. And obviously with Tevin Jenkins, he's our Seiya Suzuki. You know, he's going to miss a few games every year. So you say, did they do enough? I don't know if they did enough this year because this kid is a little raw. He has to come up and learn. But I was reading just the other day that him and Braxton are long-term plans here. They see them as interchangeable pots, either as swing tackles or possibly putting Braxton into the guard position if this guy becomes a better tackle than him over time. So I think there's a little hope on the offensive line. I also do think, and I touched on this before with Nate Davis, his overall career, he's been a solid lineman. He had a lot of personal things going on last year. His sister, his mother passing away within a couple of weeks. Then he got injured, and I think that had to be, he didn't have the proper training camp because all that was going on. I really expect this guy to bounce back this year and be the solid piece next to Darnell Wright. Ryan Bates is going to be the guy that I don't know. I mean, I actually like the kid from the Rams. I can't think of his name, Coleman. I can't think of his first name that they picked up. He started 2 years for the Rams. He's getting the ball from Matthew Stafford. Ryan Bates has been a lifetime backup guy. So the one thing I will take away and say, if you go back to last year and you look at Seattle's offense was ranked right around the Bears towards the bottom of the league. Yeah. But what did Shane Waldron do? He moved the launch point for Geno Smith, got him out of the pocket, and helped him out. He also did a lot of 12 personnel in there, which having those extra tight ends, he was using his tight ends to chip block and give Geno an extra second. And these tight ends, actually Noah Fant, who I wish the Bears would have picked up in this offseason, he was actually a really good chipper coming off and giving him extra seconds. So I think there's a lot of ways in the scheme for Shane Waldron that he's going to help Caleb Williams stay upright. And we saw he can play off schedule at USC, but we also saw with Geno Smith last year with Shane Waldron. He also kept Geno Smith on schedule a lot with his quick passes and getting the ball out. So
right, that's a good point too, Sean. And you look at all those things that Geno had trouble with in his previous stops. None of that was present in his game. And you look at what he's done the last 2 years for Seattle. He hasn't lost them many games. Now you could say maybe there's some games where he didn't make those throws in the fourth quarter that would have put Seattle over the top in one-score games, but he never was a situation where he never lost them a game over the last 2 years. And I agree with you. That's the Shane Waldron effect. And I think he knows quarterbacks. He knows how to build offenses to their strengths. I have no doubt whatsoever that we are going to see a much more game plan week in and week out. This is not going to be an offensive game plan that's going to look like a UFL scheme sheet or a CFL scheme sheet as it has over the past couple of years. So I think there's no trouble there, but it goes back to what you're saying about Braxton Jones. This is going to have to be an offensive line that's going to have to be able to be chameleon, switch on over. And that's going to be the biggest key. We cannot get in a situation where Caleb Williams is taking 3-4 sacks a game. Right? You do that, and then you cut his efficiency, by 50%?
Yeah. And I will tell you, the one thing that is scary about that, if they can't protect him, he had 33 fumbles at UFC, and that's one of his biggest knocks is holding onto that ball. And we just lived that for the last 3 years. So I'm hoping that will clean itself up inside the scheme that they're going to run. I'm really hoping, because that is the one thing we cannot have. We cannot have these turnovers again. His efficiency throwing the ball is a lot better, and I think that had to probably do a lot. USC just wasn't the greatest team in the world, so he had to, extend plays and do things that he probably won't be doing in the NFL, but it also does worry me because it's not Pac-12 defenses he's going to be playing. So there is that too. But again, I think they simplify the offense to start the season and then keep bringing it in and bringing it in and bringing it in and get them going. I just don't think you can bring this kid in and say, first game of the year, let's throw 50 passes. That just would not make sense. But
yeah, exactly. That's right. Friends, you are dialed into the voice of the Chicago sports fan. This is Chicago Sports Podcast, Monsters of the Madhouse, created and executive produced by Brandon Trax, Hyatt the Punky LT, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for chiming in. Our good buddy V-Dog. V-Dog, right back at you, my friend. Happy Friday. We
Can I touch
appreciate
on
you.
that, Cleat?
Yeah, go ahead, my friend. You bet.
Really quick, that is V-Dog, a good point. He does come from the from the McVay Shanahan tree. And the one thing I really do like about that is his adaptability within that. He changes his schemes up a lot. That is a great point, and he does definitely come from that tree. And that's one of the things that got me most excited, because if you watch those offenses, holy man, we've been praying for something like that in Chicago.
Absolutely. We have been waiting. Good Lord, we've all been waiting our lifetimes for a competent offensive system week in and week out. All right, friends, we know how good the draft was. We know how this guy is on the cover of every magazine, sports magazine in the country, and selling jersey at a clip that Caitlin Clark can't even match right now. But let's talk about what Brian Poles always talks about it, friends, how we take back the North. This segment of Monsters of the Madhouse, friends, is brought to you by TC's World of Wonders, the home of America's best online sports jersey and memorabilia deals. Is your go-to site for that sweet Caleb Williams jersey. Check out Tom at tcsworldofwonders.com, folks. He will get you all squared away for the upcoming 2024 season. Sean, it's one thing, as we know, to win the draft. It's a whole nother giant challenge to win the NFC North, which is something the Bears haven't done since 2018. Where we go from here will determine the overall success or failure of the biggest rebuild in Illinois, this side of the Rebuild Illinois road construction project. Let's start from the top. There are still key roster spots to fill and off-season training plans to put in place. What should be the Bears' next roster move post-draft, Sean, following this week's waiving of punter Trenton Gill, whose leg will never be mistaken for Torrey Taylor's?
Without a doubt, it's defensive line. They need a little depth outside of Billings, and we still don't know what Pickens is going to be. I do fully expect Dexter to take a step forward. He came on towards the end of the year a little bit, started becoming a little bit more of a disruptor. And let's be honest, I don't know if people have been following him. I follow him on Twitter, and I've been watching his insane offseason and all the work he's been putting in. I mean, this guy has a heart and a tigger that doesn't stop. So I really expect him to take a step forward. And Billings is going to be Billings. But if one of those guys gets hurt, where are we now? Because the depth behind them, whoa. and I mean, obviously you need an edge, but we're at the point of the season now where we're probably going to end up with a Yannick Ngakoue or something like that coming back onto this team. And I don't know if it's going to be him. I'm not saying it's going to be him, but something along those lines, or some cuts that are coming up here, as training camps get going. But they definitely need to get some capable NFL bodies on the defensive line outside of what we have here right now. I wish maybe they would have drafted one. I mean, we didn't have a ton of draft picks, but we got to find something, because that is a serious need on this team. Like, I don't even know how to say how bad it is a need, but it is a desperate need.
Yeah, you think about it, the pass rush, you can't say enough about how much it improved, from the first half of the season to the second half of the season, getting a legit, effective edge rusher in Montez, help that, Sean. But you're right, though. It's still in a situation where I think, if my memory serves, we had 33 sacks or something like that as a team last year. That kind of pressure is not going to get the job done when you're on the road trying to win one-score dogfights, which, let's face it, this team is going to have to be able to win those one-score games on the road if we're even going to be talking about playoffs come December.
We also don't know what we're going to get out of Austin Booker. I know I'm a Jayhawk, so I love that pick. I woke up and looked at my wife, and I was like, all I want to hear is the Bears draft Austin Booker today. Then they took the kicker, and I was like, damn it, we have no more picks. And then all of a sudden we made a trade, and here he is. So, but I don't know what this guy is going to bring. I mean, he's definitely very strong. And for our enemies up north, he dominated their first round offensive tackle. They took Jordan Morgan in the Senior Bowl, which is great footage. If you guys haven't seen it yet, go check it out. I hope he can provide a little bit of a spark, as a rookie. I know it's hard as a rookie, stepping up to that level. I actually, as a Kansas fan and watch Kansas all the time, I really expected him to come back next for his senior season to Kansas. So he was a little bit of a surprise to come out, but hopefully he can be a game breaker for us on the defense because we don't have anyone else coming off that edge. And DeMarcus Walker is definitely a rotational piece. And I know that some of the other guys on the other shows that talked about him, I happen to agree with them. He does get gassed. He's not an every down player. So hopefully the combination of Walker and Booker, they could rotate that and it'll give us some kind of semblance off the other edge to start the year.
Yeah, yeah. And our good friend DeVdog brings up a good point too. We've seen Ryan Pauls make in-season moves before the deadline each of the last 2 years. I would not doubt without question he would try to go out if he feels like this pass rush is not effective come week 3 and it needs another horse, whatever it takes. And we've shown he's not afraid to trade future draft capital, and we've got a ton of it. We've got a ton of it next year with those 2 second rounders in particular.
I would dangle this out there that if there's any way that he could go find a way to acquire Trey Hendrickson, who's not happy in Cincinnati. I mean, everyone around here, I think, is talking Super Bowl at that point.
The Kool-Aid would be, the Kool-Aid would be flowing indeed in terms of this team's Super Bowl chances. Hey, let's talk about the offense. We know about all the firepower at receiver. When you look at what the top line of that 2 deep, looks like right now on offense, Kmet and Gerald Everett working at tight end, Tyler Scott, Dunze, Moore, Allen, of course, not in that order, folks. Offensive line of Jones, Jenkins, Ryan Bates, Nate Davis, Darnell Wright, of course, the chef at QB. Right now, do you see any possibility that any of those 11 guys that we just went over is not in the starting lineup come opening week 2024? Or do you think, this is what we're going with? Or is there a chance that some people could come in with really good camps and break their way into that starting 11 on offense?
I'm going to go Ryan Bates again. I hate to beat the guy like a dead horse, but he's a career backup. Ryan Poles, I guess, was after him for a couple of years. He couldn't get him. He finally did. And maybe he's going to work out. We have to trust in Poles, and we have to trust in his ability to get these players here. He obviously sees something in him that we don't, but he also went and got Shelton. So when I look at everybody else, I like everybody else. I love the addition of Gerald Everett as a move tight end, receiving tight end, whatever you want to call him. I think he's going to work really well. I was a big fan of him coming into the league, and he's had some injury problems. And as we say that too, I think another quality tight end, unless I'm forgetting one that's on the roster, I think would be another solid addition because Waldron does like. And really quick, I implore you guys to watch the all 22 on him because he employs this 13 personnel with these schemes with 3 tight ends so well and disguises them and gets people open and attacks all 3 levels with these tight ends. It is actually amazing what he does and how he disguises it. Boot action and play actions. You guys got to go check this out. It is really awesome, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this guy can do with the Bears.
Absolutely. And you're right. In today's NFL, the more misdirection you can do with your tight ends, the more dangerous you can be.
Yeah.
Folks, this is Monsters of the Madhouse, Mr. Chicago, Sean Lugo, Cleat Soup Campbell with you. Thank you so much for checking in, everybody. Be sure to hit that like button on YouTube and subscribe to us, on the Big U. Folks, we are all waiting with bated breath. We believe the NFL schedule for 2024 will be unveiled this Thursday, May 9th, which should be a national holiday in Chicago this year. The schedule of playoff dreams is our next segment, brought to you by Budget Jet Cars, Chicagoland's trusted friend for safe, reliable transportation. Give them a call if you need new wheels this spring or summer. We know the opponent, Sean, but we just don't know the dates. But as we know in Bears Nation, it's never too early to map out ways for the Bears to return to the playoffs for the first time since 2018. Let's go down the line week by week. Let's do this, the whole set list, home and road. Way too early, but hey, folks, this is what we do. As Bears Nations, we got a long way till opening week in September. Give me win or loss, Sean, and then we will do with Sean Lugo, Mr. Chicago Math. You'll be able to tell us right now without anybody having to wait or anybody having to buy any kind of NFL prediction magazines or anything like that, whether we're making the playoffs or not. So let's start off. Here is our home schedule, folks, for 2024. We'll put this up on the screen for you as well. Let's start it off. Home game with probably a game that could determine the NFC North this year. Home against the Lions. What do you think? Who you got, Sean Lugo?
I'm going to tell you, I mean, the Lions did get better, maybe, possibly, but they ended up, their secondary was their weak spot last year, and they just got torched in that secondary. They added some rookies, some very good rookies, but rookies in the NFL don't always lead to success, especially in the secondary, which is a position that takes a couple of years to learn. Like we learned with Kyle Fuller, Kyler Gordon's continued to progress and become better. So the Bears should have swept the Lions last year.
Yeah.
Or we can get the road game out of here and say, I'm going to go for a sweep again of the Lions again this year.
I love it. Yeah, we will drink that Kool-Aid, Sean. And Brewhouse 7, my man, you definitely are going to need a bigger cooler with everything we got going on Bears-wise. All right, so Sean Lugo is calling. Mr. Chicago is calling the Bears going 2-0 against the Lions in 2024. Next up, home and away, the Packers.
Oh, God.
Obviously, we know what's happened over the last 10 games. Are you calling a split there, Sean?
I am going to call a split, and I'm hoping that we get our home game first. Caleb paints his nails, F Green Bay, and goes out and throws for 403 touchdowns, and DeAndre Swift runs in another 2, and we just paste them.
Yeah, beautiful thing, my friend. We are overdue, and I tell you what, it will feel. If we can beat Green Bay this year, without question, it will be the biggest regular season victory of the Ryan Poles era, bar none, for me.
I'm not gonna lie. If we finally do beat these guys, I might cry. I might shed a tear.
Yeah, Brewhouse 7 will need an entire walk-in cooler if we pull that one off. For sure. Hey, let's talk Minnesota. That's a team in transition. Such a wild card with J.J. McCarthy. We don't know if it's going to be a platoon system with them at quarterback or what. Is this a year, if we just take care of the football, that we could potentially sweep Minnesota?
I do. I know some people like J.J. McCarthy. I also heard he's not going to start, but I don't know who's going to start there if he's not, and they're probably not going to be that good. I don't even know who the backup is, to be honest with you, or potential. But I heard after the draft they were planning on not starting him, but that can't bode well either. So.
Yeah, there's really I don't think there's really any good options right now in Minnesota with what they're going to do.
No, I mean, in their defense took a step back last year. They lost Danielle Hunter. I could very well see the Bears sweeping the. You know what? I'm going to take the Bears and sweep the Vikings. Forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. Dallas Turner will help them, but not to that point. So Sean is calling it, folks. Sean is calling a sweep of Minnesota. All right, let's get outside of the division. As we know, these games, particularly NFC North, will be so huge. Let's talk up with a home matchup with the Seahawks. That's a team, new coach. That's really going to be a mystery.
It is going to be a mystery. It is going to be a mystery. You know what? Really? Oh man, I don't want to call a loss here, but I also don't want to put it at 15-1. You know, it was funny because I was actually Kyle and I were talking about this a couple days ago, and I looked at the home schedule, and I'm like, man, we got rookie quarterbacks, second-year quarterbacks. Like, how many games can we lose at home if our defense takes off where it did last year? Yeah. I'll give a win. I'll give a win against the Seahawks in transition. I won't. I'll take a loss to the Jaguars just to keep it a little even here.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So right now, Sean Lugo, with the way you have it set up, you have the Bears at this point. We're approaching the halfway point of the season. Obviously, we don't know how these games will be slotted, but right now, I like where we're looking at. We're talking about a 6-2 Bears team. All right, give me your wins, your losses, these final 3 home games. Titans, Panthers, and Patriots.
Really quick, VDog just typed in here that Kevin O'Connell will go with Darnold and just let McCarthy sit and learn. Yeah,
All right.
then yes, I'll take the Bears in a sweep if that's the
Oh,
case.
and V Dog is absolutely right. That is the plan of Minnesota. I guess the question the cynical Vikings fans would ask V Dog, what will he be learning from Sam Darnold?
I actually thank you, V-Dog. I completely forgot they signed Sam Darnold.
Yeah, absolutely. V-Dog on it as always there. Okay, so we're talking about Titans, Patriots, and Panthers. We're talking about three teams still very early in their rebuilds. All three of those teams have monster quarterback issues.
Mhm.
Potential to go 3-0 there. I would think, no law of parity in the NFL. Are you thinking 2-1 over that stretch there?
I would say 2-1. Man, this is so tough because I look at these teams and say, is Will Levis making that step? You have the Patriots who are going to have probably the kid from LSU, and then Bryce Young, who can't see over his offensive line, coming up after that. So, I mean, again, to keep it even, I'll say 2-1 because in the NFL, you lose games you're supposed to win, and you win games you're supposed to lose.
Yeah.
So, if I was going to pick one in there, would probably be the Titans somehow beating the Bears.
Yeah, that would be my bet as well. To Bruja 7. Hey, Bruja, good point. The Bears will be playing a game in London this year. It's going to be against a team like you have there, Bruja, that's designated to play a regular season game next year. That's going to be at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, one of the most cutting edge, best stadiums in the English Premier League. So that'll be exciting. It'll be interesting to see. My gut feeling, if I had to guess on that, I would say, because we're giving up a home game. I think
I just Googled it, and it says the Chicago Bears and Minnesota Vikings are joining Jacksonville and playing the National Football League games in London next year. It says at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the Bears will host the Vikings, and yet an unnamed opposition in autumn as part of the 2024 International Game Series. So I guess we're playing Minnesota there.
Okay, that'll be interesting. All right. Wow. Well, that will add
I,
something
I,
to that rivalry. First time ever on foreign soil for the Chicago-Minnesota rivalry. Okay, so we're through 11 games. Sean Lugo has the Bears right now, tentatively, folks, 8-3. Now, it can sound like we're drinking the Kool-Aid, but remember, folks, we're coming off a 7-10 season where we blew count them, three double-digit fourth quarter leads. How easily this team could have been in the playoffs in 10-7 last year. Let's go to the road war, Sean. As we mentioned, that they're never easy.
Nope.
Here's who we have outside of the division on the road this coming year: the 49ers, Texans, Colts, and Commanders. So you're talking about two legit powers there in Houston and San Francisco. Indianapolis, which I think could be a sleeper, really, to have a great year and maybe make a run as far as the AFC title game. And of course, Washington, which isn't quite sure if it's still a National Football League team. It's playing in the old NFL Europe. What you have for that 4-game stretch there, Sean?
Well, I'm gonna give us an L versus the Niners. The Bears' history versus the Niners is one I like to forget. So we'll give that a. The Texans. I'm gonna give them an L versus the Texans. I'm sorry, guys. I think we're growing, but we're not there yet. And the Texans showed a lot last year. I mean, they grew exponentially really fast, and if they can continue to grow off that, Will Anderson on the defensive side, I really like that team. The Colts, as we talked about, I mean, their wide receiver core, they get their quarterback back.
Yeah.
They always play really great defense. So, I'll put the win against the Commanders. We'll chalk that one down. And I'll take the Texans, Colts, and Niners as losses there.
Okay. All righty. So now we're talking a situation now where you have it basically, Sean Lugo, kind of what what we were all thinking. I mean, you have an 11-6. If I did my math correct, 11-6 run for the Bears. Most people are calling this team to go 10-7 in 2024. So that's kind of right on the money. And let's face it, it's a rookie quarterback. It's still a team that's working in a lot of new guys at a lot of positions. But as your good friend Cliff notes, the NFL is giving us favors. We also have the NFL, the weakest outside divisions to play as well this year. So currently right now, folks, Bet Online is putting the Bears 2024 playoff chances at -130. That equates to about a 56.5 playoff chance. So everything's right there. Everything's right there. Everybody believes that we've done enough that this team should be in prime playoff position. Worst case scenario, Sean.
And I'll say this: it really also depends on how the schedule shapes up too. That can change a lot of things throughout this. When we took the vote on our Facebook page today, I took the Bears for 9 wins, so I have them at 2 extra on here. But it could happen. I mean, you're right. They blew 3 games they should have won. They could have been 10-7 last year. And their personnel is better. So.
Well, yeah, and basically what it will come down to with how this team plays close games, we know this. I mean, we lost those games from pick sixes. We lost those games via Justin Fields fumbles. We lost those games last year with an offensive coordinator who made the most bizarre play calls in the final 5 minutes of games, one-score games than you'll ever see. But let's go to a good friend V-Dog, because
great
this
question.
is the underlying question. Great question here, V-Dog. Matt Eberflus is on a playoff or you're gone kind of mandate. Do you think now the fact that he won't have to put so much focus and be an acting defensive coordinator this year with a legit defensive coordinator and a true passing game, do you think Matt Eberflus, Sean, as V-Dog asks, will take a big step forward this season, or is he going to be in a situation where we still see him make the same kind of mistakes that really prevented this team from going to the next level last year?
I really hope he's growing, but I've long said this. I think that he's our Doug Collins, and we're gonna have to find our Phil Jackson.
Yeah,
so
it's a good point. Is he the Rick Renteria before
right?
Joe Madden?
Look,
that's the thing. We all love this guy. I mean, I think is as likable as the Bears coaches we've had since Lovey, even more, I think, personal than Dave Wanstead. And really, that's why Dave Wanstead was able to survive back-to-back for 12 seasons with the Bears, is just because he was so personable with the media and so likable. And, he made a great impression with the McCaskey family. But, yeah, V-Dog, you're absolutely right. That everything's in place for Matt for Fuse this year. We'll truly find out if he's a legit franchise changing, head coach, or as Sean says, just that bridge guy. If I had to take my money, I agree with you. I think he's a bridge guy.
I hope we're both wrong. I really do. I mean, it would be nice. And I mean, this schedule shapes up really nice for him to showcase himself as a coach. And I really hope so. Cause I've debated this in my brain back and forth. Like, I guess maybe if we get another season, because I think last season when it looked dark, he pulled the team together. They never gave up. They fought to the end for this guy. And that says something about him, his coaching style, how the players feel about him. They want to play for him. That doesn't always equate to a championship. Yeah. But I'm willing to roll into the fire with them this year. But if we're sitting here at like I don't know, 2-6 or 3-6, yeah.
And that's a good point too. I mean, I think V-Dog in the big picture. I mean, we remember last year what we started. I want to say, was it 0-5? I think 0-4, 0-5. We were done after week 5, and I think that was so disparaging. He's gonna have to, that opening month, if he doesn't go 2-2. As you said, Sean, even with as easy as the schedule, it will be an uphill battle.
Now here, can we say this though? Say it's Detroit, then on the road to San Francisco, then on the road to the Texans, and then back home against, say, the Packers. Maybe that's what I'm saying. I think the schedule when it comes out is going to answer a lot of questions.
Of that schedule, and you're absolutely right. We know Green Bay is going to be there. Green Bay's always there within that first 3 weeks, so that's going to be huge right there too. Great questions, points from everybody too. Wanted to make a Bruja big time point there too about how bad our punting game last year was, second to worst in the NFL, I believe. That was a big reason for our struggles, but we're going to have to get that all ironed out if this team truly is going to make a run to its first playoff appearance in 6 years. And so you heard it from Sean Lugo, officially Mr. Chicago,
going to the playoffs
for our Bears in 2024. Hey, folks, this next segment is brought to you by River Street Tavern and East Dundee, the best sports dining and time of your week. Go to the river for the best food and times in Chicagoland, folks. We know that Chicago is a city of big dreams. We're all dreamers. I mean, heck, we dream one day of the Chicago White Sox being able to win 3 games in a row. We're a city of optimistic visionaries and hopeful architects. We're a city dreaming of a Bulls team that believes in playing playoff basketball once upon a time in the future. We are a city that wants to believe that the Bears shoot for Neptune. $4.7 billion lakefront dome stadium proposal can become a reality. Folks, I want to believe it more than anyone. If you've seen the team's promotional video, Bears President Kevin Warren and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson have teamed on a spectacular vision of a Chicago football future. A state-of-the-art 21st century stadium with cutting-edge amenities. The plan includes public trails, upgrades for the museum campuses, is in a word absolutely breathtaking. Unfortunately, there's always a flip side of this coin. This proposal features no mention of the word parking, is asking for well over $2 billion in public money, and is now more dead than the White Sox playoff chances on arrival in Springfield. Illinois, which currently has $142.2 billion in unfunded state pension debt, as Governor J.B. Pritzker said, is not in the business of financing professional sports stadiums right now. So that being said, Mr. Chicago, Sean Lugo, do you give the Bears' ambitious stadium project any chance of becoming reality with public money, or does Kevin Warren, and we got to remember, he was able to make this happen in Minnesota to get a new stadium for the Vikings about a decade ago. Does he have to go back to the drawing board of how he's going to finance this?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't agree with Pritzker on much, but I agree with him on this. Right. Number one, Arlington Heights should be the destination for the Chicago Bears. There's a lot of reasons why. Yeah. Number one, when they first bought that property and they came out and they did the same thing they just did in Chicago, put this beautiful presentation up there. What were the things coming out of their mouths? This is about the Chicago Bears. We want to make money for the Chicago Bears. We want to do this for the Chicago Bears. Bears. What's the one thing you heard this last press conference? Let's glorify the city. It's all about Chicago. Honestly, the Chicago Bears, if they were to go into Arlington Heights and 326 acres, which they have, how many acres? How much does the stadium take? What, 20 acres? Maybe. You have the stadium. You have the ability to build your bars, your restaurants, your underground parking, a couple of hotels probably. If you and also utilize the ones around Arlington Heights. When you get right off there at 53 and Euclid, there's hotels everywhere. It's not like it's not already built. It's kind of a business district. The court's over there. There's a lot of stuff over there. And number one, if the Bears were to do this and put their own money into Arlington Heights, every single thing that happens there is money back into their pocket. Yeah. NCAA championship football, basketball, concerts, everything they said they wanted to do in Chicago, where Chicago's reaping all these benefits. Every time a till hits in Arlington Heights, those tills reap to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know the city has played dirty poker with the Bears for years. I mean, the Bears, they won't even let them have a sports book in Soldier Field.
Right.
They give them literally no cuts of anything. I from concessions to all. The Bears can't make a dime, it seems
Yep.
like, at Soldier Field, which they're renting out to the tune, if my memory serves, I believe they pay about $6 million in rent there a year.
Yep.
Um, for the smallest stadium in the NFL,
Smallest stadium.
the market where they have no chance to make this secondary income. So, people could say the McCaskies, and rightfully so, have been penny pinchers for decades. The fact of the matter is they don't have the revenue streams that Jerry Jones has with the Dallas Cowboys. What the Stan Kroenke has with the Los Angeles Rams, which Robert Kraft has with the Patriots. I mean, they don't have both hands tied behind their back. Sean, they have hands best. They're operating in a financial straitjacket.
You know the thing too, though, when it comes to Jerry's World, which I've been to, and it's a phenomenal facility, it only cost them $1 billion. I mean, the Chicago Bears are asking for $4.1 billion, and I understand the restructuring they're doing, but again, like you just said, you're living a rent nightmare right now. You're literally living this. Why do you want to build a stadium and relive this nightmare in debt? You build your own stadium, you're probably paying this off in 10 years with all the tills you'll be turning.
In 10 years, and you don't have to worry about all those problems you have anytime you want to do something. And here's the deal, too. Now, you stay in Chicago. You're working with the Illinois Sports Authority, okay? Here's how bad that organization is run with Chicago Park District as well.
Yeah.
Remember, when Soldier Field got changed from one of the most beautiful stadiums in the country and to a spaceship, and what about the aliens? We still got to figure out what the aliens are, if they're going to get their spaceship back or not. It costs $600 million and change. Guess how much you think that the city of Chicago, the Chicago Park District, Illinois Sports Authority, how much do you think they still owe on that Soldier Field renovation for 2003?
I don't know how much they owe, but I know they still owe on it. And the same chick that did the opening is the person who they owe the money to.
Yeah. Sean, it's over $700 million.
Oh my God.
They haven't even been paying they haven't been paying the interest. They've only been paying the basic principal on this. This is Illinois, ladies and gentlemen, Illinois mathematics, Illinois accounting, Illinois debt structuring, Illinois financing at its most insane. But that's what the Bears will be going back into if they stay in the city.
Get the hell out of Chicago, build Bear City in Arlington Heights, own it, be smart about it. I mean, you're building this franchise up right now to be a winner again for a while. Go build your own stadium. And I still, the Bears lease is what, 2030, I think, at Soldier Field right now? It's up in
officially, I want to say, I want to say 2033. I think it goes
to 2033. So are they really in a hurry? Because they have to buy out, they would have to build the stadium and buy it out. It's frustrating because there's so much excitement about what's coming down the pipe for the Bears. And you wonder if, Caleb Williams, and you hate to ask that he performs at a level where he can be a guy who builds a new stadium, but, you wonder if it would take that. But the biggest question is why in Chicago? Why in Chicago, Sean Lugo? Can't we have nice stadium things? I mean, there's something about the city, and let's look at it. I mean, outside of the Wrigley Field renovation, which was 100% privately financed by the Ricketts family, I mean, getting any kind of renovation, any kind of stadium off the ground in this city is like moving Mount Everest. Yeah, there's loopholes. And I mean, just like the Bears are finding out right after that press conference, the first person that called them was Chicago Park District. And what do they say? Yeah, good luck with that. Try it. We're going to stew your pants off.
And our good friend Cliff Victoria brings up a good point too. I wonder if Mayor Johnson and the city of Chicago is as much in debt as the state is, will one day walk away and, think that, just in terms of what it will cost the city, to make this happen. And the other thing that we're finding here too, that the tide is turning now against publicly financed stadiums for billion-dollar NFL teams or any kind of pro sports teams too. We just saw the two-time defending world champion Kansas City Chiefs put out a referendum there with the Royals of Kansas City that got shot down bad. So it's going to get to the point now where these owners are going to have to get out there, find ways, bring in financiers and do this themselves, because the glory days of, the taxpayer, the average Illinois taxpayer will never be able to afford a ticket to this new Bear Stadium. The day of that guy financing the stadiums of NFL, of billionaire sports owners is long gone and past.
Maybe the Bears should reach out to Ricketts and see if he wants to throw some money into this thing.
It can't hurt. It absolutely can't hurt. Absolutely. Dustin Jones, our good friend, Dustin poetically says, at the end of the day, fans are the ones who pay the insane ticket prices and concession costs. The goal needs to be to make it the best experience possible for fans, to make it worth their while. Amen, Dustin.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, because if they build Bear City, that would be worth your price of admission right there. Things for the kids, football fields like they did at Wrigley.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah. How much?
There's your blueprint.
How much better has Wrigleyville got since that?
So awesome.
Question. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move. Let's read out the good news. Let's go back across town. Let's go. Speaking of those Chicago Cubs, the boys at Addison, they have an absolute enigma. There he is, Sean. I love it. Stalin switching on over. An enigma named Shota, the Japanese professor in the manga, who has been absolutely brilliant. Friends, this segment of Chicago Sports Podcast, titled The Shota Enigma, is brought to you by Serendipity Ice Cream Parlor, where it's always delicious summertime. The Shota right now, friends, is an X-File, an unsolvable riddle, and an absolute Agatha Christie novel that cannot be solved for National League hitters. 100 of Chicago's finest special investigators couldn't solve the mystery that is the reigning National League Rookie Pitcher of the Month. Folks, listen to these stats. Shota, over his first 6 career major league starts, went 5-0, 35 strikeouts, a .78 ERA, a 34.2 dazzling innings that produced 6 Cubs wins in 6 starts. He's doing it all, as Sean Lugo mentioned just weeks ago, with a riddlesome arsenal of high 80s to low 90s fastballs, curveballs, off-speed target pitching. And he is absolutely right now just on another level than anyone in Major League Baseball when it comes to pitching. Okay, Sean Lugo, you've been watched the Cubs your entire life. Is this, bar none, the greatest start to a Cubs pitching career, even better than Hall of Famer Fergie Jenkins, Kerry Wood's Inferno 1998 season, and Carlos Zambrano's impressive Major League break-in? Is this the best performance by a Cubs rookie pitcher that we have ever seen or ever will see?
Not only a Cubs rookie pitcher, it is the third best start since 1913, since they started recording this, of any pitcher in baseball history. So yeah, that's saying something. And I mean, watching what was it, the Sunday night game, Boston, on ESPN. Yeah. They interviewed him in the dugout. Did you get to see that at all? When
about how we knew he was in New York City.
Yeah, and not only that, when they asked him about his start and if he felt like he was doing something, and he was like, "Look, I'm doing okay, but the league's only seen me once, and until I go back through the league again, then I'll really accomplish something." I was like, wow, man, this guy's shutting down the world. And he's like, yeah, I'm not doing anything. I'm like, wow, man, that's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's why I'm betting that he can still be effective, because this is a guy, this is a student of the game as well as he is. Mm-hmm. He knows, as you said in that interview, Sean, he's going to have to be so much better the second time through the league than the first, when the scouting report gets out on him. Let's talk about that, Sean. How can Shota keep painting masterpieces, and how much tougher is it going to be for him to weave magic on these canvases now that the scouting report on how to approach him is getting out around the league?
He's going to have to keep working those plates, man. He's got some Maddox stuff going on, how he can paint the corners outside. He knows how to take a little off and drop it out of the zone. And you know what? He's had a little bit of decent fielding behind him as well. Not overall, because we'll talk about that in a second. But I think The one thing I did take away from his last start, and I think Jim DeShace touched on it a little bit too, was his velo was down just a little bit.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's not, feeling, every fifth day getting a little bit tired. But even with his velo down, he still pitched a masterpiece because he was throwing the ball inside out, painting these corners, getting it where the batters couldn't hit it. I mean, it's really fun watching him. It's like watching, may I say his name, Hendricks in 2016,
Yeah,
with a little more velo.
Yeah. Just in chat, absolutely. You look at how important he has been, emerging as a front of the line starter. We talked about this rotation that it's had 4 different starters go on the DL. Good news coming out. It's expected, according to Cubs GM Carter Hawkins, that we are going to get the Man of Steel. Justin Steele looks like he'll be back for Monday night's game, Sean, against the Padres. But you pick one up, one goes down. Jordan Wicks now is the latest Cubs starter to fall to injury. He is out with a forearm strain. Hopefully won't be too long. Meanwhile, down on the farm, 2022 Cubs top pick Cade Horton is absolutely destroying hitters. In fact, he's destroying them to the point where he might have charges brought up against him. He pitched the Tennessee Smokies to the tune of a 1.10 ERA with 18 strikeouts and allowed just 2 runs over 16 and a third innings before he got called up to AAA Iowa this week. Sean, what do you think about it? Now, some observers believe that Horton could be in Chicago as early as June. Should Craig Counsell, Carter Hawkins, and Jed Hoyer, should they resist the natural temptation to call up Horton up too early? Or in your mind, does this make a prospect ready, all the more so given the uncertainty in the back end of this rotation?
Well, I've been waiting for this one. So a couple shows ago, my prediction was he would be up here in July. I don't know if you remember that. I said around July, I expect him to be up here. I think they would be. I know it's really bad right now, but I don't think it's as bad as it looks on the surface. Let's just say that. Let me touch on this just a little bit. Number one, we did just lose Wicks. We haven't had Steele. We lost Smiley. Hendricks has kind of, not been the best guy in the world. I don't even know.
You're very kind, Sean. You're very kind.
I think Edward Alzolay after today should be a DFA candidate.
We'll get to that in a moment. Yeah.
I think if I may, a couple of years ago when Corbin Burns and what was that other stud, Woodruff were coming up in Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. What did Counsell do with them? And I have a feeling, I hopefully I'm right, and we don't need another starter and have to force him into this role. But he put Woodruff and he put Burns into the bullpen when they first came up from the minor leagues, and they were dominant. They were shut down. So I think with the Cubs' problems right now, and something that the Cubs are missing, and oh my God, no one thought we'd miss Drew Smiley this much, because if he was here, maybe he shuts down that game today. But once these pieces start getting back together, and maybe I do think that Ben Brown's going to slot into that bullpen area.
Right. Yeah.
And then you put Cade Horton in there. You get Neris back. You get Merriweather back. You still have to find a closer. But all of a sudden, the back end of your bullpen is starting to look a lot better, And I still think there's a lot of hope here on this roster. I don't think we have a closer. I think we need to address that. I'll give Kyle his props. He said it when the season started. CSP's very own said this guy is not our closer. Props to him. I went with he'll be fine. I was dead wrong. So hopefully they find that closer, but I do see a lot of hope on the back end of that pen. I really do trust in Counsell. I don't lose it, not say I'm losing faith, but the lineup needs to change a little bit for me right now too, because Morel's got to go to that 4-hole.
Yeah, there's a little too much loyalty, I think, in that lineup right now. And look, and I know you got to give guys at bats. You have to give guys experience without question. And you've got guys that are coming in to fill up spots, but there's too many guys right now hitting under 200. And,
yes.
And that's the problem. And I know you look at these guys, and I know they're all in situations where you have to find out what you have. PCA, I don't worry about him.
Nope.
He's going to be all right because he brings the defense. But when you're talking about these other guys right now that are just absolutely zeros with runners in scoring
Yep.
position late in games, you're not going to be able to get away with that,
Nope.
Sean. Once we get to August. Now let's look at the bad part about it too. Like you said, Adbert Adzeley, who's going on one of the roughest runs of a Cubs reliever since, oh my goodness. I tell you what, I got to go back to all the way back to Antonio Fonseca.
Oh God.
Going as bad as this guy is. We were both talking, folks, before the show. If you didn't see it, Hayden Wesnowski, it's absolutely brilliant today. Best start of his year.
Yeah.
As as JD was talking about, best start of his career, 6 1/3 shutout, and he's absolutely brilliant. I would have actually left him in there to finish the 7th, but I understand he was in uncharted waters.
Yeah.
But the problem that Craig made, and I know he wants to get Adbert's confidence back. I completely agree. No trouble with that. But he brings him in the 8th inning with one out, 1-0 game. And right away, you could tell that he doesn't have any movement. He gives up a couple CNI singles. And then there's just he's doing nothing to make Milwaukee hitters guess. He was just an open book. And so he gives up the time run. I would have pulled him there.
Yeah.
Then gives up the go-ahead run. And then Counsell comes out to talk to him, leaves him in, and then gives up a third run, and then it's ball game really at that point with as well as Milwaukee pitched today. Like you say, you're kinder than me. I would actually send him back down to Iowa just to see if he can find himself again. But is it the best thing right now for Adbert Adzeley just to be designated for assignment? I mean, it's right now he just does not have it.
I mean, I thought he should have been sent down already, but and maybe my emotions get the best of me because I hate losing anything from Wisconsin.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
And we just lost to the Brewers in a game again we should have won. And honestly, right now, he has 5 blown saves, and he blew the game when they brought him in the 7th or 8th. He gave up the home run that was a tie. We wound up losing, so he's actually responsible for 6 losses right now. You cannot run this guy out there.
You can't. You think about it. And if we would have after those if we would have pulled him from the closer spot after, say, the first 3 blown saves, well, now you're talking about a situation where you could have 2 or 3 more wins in your back pocket. Now, all that being said, without question, we are nitpicky, folks, but you cannot say enough about what the Cubs did running the toughest opening month in recent franchise history. I've seen nothing like it in years. Running 6 games above 500 with 7 guys on the IL at one point, Sean. Overall, through the first month of the season, what grade do you give this team?
If it wasn't for the bullpen, they would probably get an A+ from me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give them a B. I am super excited still because we just went through this rigorous schedule. And a couple weeks ago when we were on the show, I said I'd be impressed if they made it out of April 500.
Yeah,
they're a couple games over.
Yeah.
Dude, it's only been a week. And I went back and looked at the schedule earlier when I was watching this Brewers game, and we couldn't hit again. I'm like, okay, when did this start? We haven't hit since we beat Boston 7-1.
Yeah.
It's been downhill, and it's only been a week. We're missing Suzuki. We're missing Bellinger. I mean, you get these guys back in. You start slotting Bush back down to 6th. You get Morel out of the 4-hole, for the love of Christ.
Get Matt Murn out of the lineup entirely.
Yeah, Mervis gone. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen. And I would say here, since I'm going to the game tomorrow, can God please bless me with maybe a Patrick Wisdom start at 3rd, because Morel, correct me if I'm wrong here, Cleet. Is his swings not starting to remind you of Javier Baez a little bit?
Yeah, I see a lot of air. There's a lot of air in that swing, and not much else, Sean. And look, we love the home runs. We love that. We just love the energy he brings. I mean, the guy is just walking sunshine. He was doing great things for kids during the New York series, without question. But yeah, you cannot have him as your regular everyday third baseman. And how much has he struggled? We're talking about bringing in Patrick Wisdom, who at best is a 230 hitter, but we we need that 30 points right now because it's just Christopher. Yeah,
Well, this goes back to their failure. They had a chance to grab Matt Chapman. How good would he look right now? And
yeah,
you could have traded Morel in the offseason while his stock was high, maybe for some relief pitching, or just let him go, or not let him go. I shouldn't say let him go. But traded him for something. I mean, you put a lot of faith in your stock, and I'm not over the farm system because I think that farm system still has a lot to give to this team. And
yeah.
just what's here right now. I mean, Swanson's not hitting. Hap. I mean, Hap had a good day today. I think it was 2 for 4, 3 for 4, something like that today. But I mean, overall, he's not hitting. He's hitting in the low 220s. I mean, I can't understand for the life of me how this team can't hit with runners in scoring position. They get slap base hits all the time, but as soon as someone's on second base, it's like, oh man, we can't hit anymore. I don't understand this whatsoever. And it just always seems it's Matt Mervis that's up when, although he has 2 hits and 2 RBIs, so he has.
Yeah, the average is at triple digits. He's officially over 100 now, so I think we do have to take for small victories. But like you said, the Cubs that we are watching here on May 3rd, 2024, will be an entirely different team, lineup rotation and bullpen, as we know, come August 1st, when really, Sean, I truly believe that the race for that NL Central will.
Today they showed Suzuki taking a fake swing and running out of the box and circling around first, so he's getting close. And Bellinger was running with the team when they were in New York. So, man, when we get those guys back, this team is still good. They have to figure out the back end, and I trust Counsell. I think he will, and I'm going out on a limb here, but I think I might be onto something with what he's going to do in the back end of the bullpen. He just doesn't have enough healthy arms right now to do it.
Absolutely. And a manager can only work with the 26 men he has on his.
He should be pounding on Hoyer's door, like, get me a closer, dude.
It might come to that. We might come to that. Let's just hope Victor Neris can hold it together for a little while.
Right.
Friends, I tell you what, tomorrow is the historic 150th run for the Roses at historic Churchill Downs. We are talking about, of course, the Kentucky Derby. Unfortunately, we don't have our good friend Matt, the horse whisperer Cooper, with us tonight.
Yes.
He's hanging out with some guy named Morgan Wallen, Deshaun. I mean, come on.
What a jerk.
But I tell you what, Mr. Chicago, Sean Lugo, if you could step in for Coop, what do the racing gods tell you? Who will make a glory run to an old Kentucky victory home tomorrow in the 150th running of the Roses?
Good thing this isn't Chicago, or I might lose my title. I was listening a little bit to Chris Chelios on the Score this morning, and he was kind of on. I believe he said Sierra Leone was one of his favorites this morning.
Sierra Leone, a 3-1 favorite. He'll be coming out of post 2 tomorrow night.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go with him because horse racing is not my forte. I will try and watch it if I can. What time does it start? Do you know?
It should post time usually will be our time. I want to say around 5:30ish.
Oh, cool. The Cup game should be over unless we're in extras.
Yeah. Hopefully, yeah. Let's avoid extras. They haven't been too kind to us lately. Let's get that thing done in 9. You know what? A couple thoughts here. Obviously, if Justin Steele is a horse fan, who's his horse is going to be tomorrow, Sean.
Oh,
Just Steele at the post number 6, 20-1 launch shot. He could be a sleeper. But I tell you what, a horse that I'm hearing a lot about that's really coming on strong, post 4, Catching Freedom. That's your good buddy Cleet's Stone Cold Lead Pipe sleeper to watch for tomorrow, folks. The 150th run of the Kentucky.
I might throw a little bread on that.
Yeah, I tell you what, go out there, Sean. That hopefully that can pay for a brewski or 2 for tomorrow. Hey, I hope for wonderful weather out there for tomorrow. I hope the Cubs bring home a sweet W for you. Is this your first game that you'll be going to live this year?
Yeah, we're actually going for Monsters of the Madhouse's Kyle Duplessis' birthday. Happy birthday to you too, Brando.
Yeah, we got birthday boys all over the place this weekend. Kyle, hey buddy, have a great time tomorrow. Hope the Cubs bring home a W for you. And we all, from your Chicago Sports Podcast, brothers and sisters, wish you, Kyle, uh, the very best trip around the sun. And did you also break some news? Do we have a guy named Brandon who's got a birthday coming up this weekend?
Brandon and Kyle are
The
twins.
twins. That's
The
right. Biggie and
twins.
Randy Duplessis. So both of the
Yep.
twins we celebrated birthdays. Well, hope they have a great one, guys. We send our best to you. Live that dream tomorrow with Mr. Chicago, Sean Lugo. Hey, friends, we cannot thank you enough. So much great comments today. So much great discussion on the Bears stadium plan, too. We want to thank everybody. Scottish Bear, Cliff Victoria, Bruja 7, our good friend Aunt Moss in there, too. And I don't want to, one of my favorites, the notorious TBG. Great thoughts, everybody. Thanks so much for checking in. We do this because we just love talking sports, and having you ride shotgun with us makes it all the much more fun. And Miss Scoreboard, Cheryl Childers, who always keeps her audience in tune.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Cheryl, you're the greatest, keeping us up to date on the Cardinals and White Sox. And oh my goodness, Cheryl, I'm hoping that's not going to become the White Sox 9th shutout loss of the season. There's a miracle around. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, friends, you have been watching the voice of the Chicago sports fan, Chicago Sports Podcast, Monsters of the Madhouse, brought to you by the best sponsors in the game, ladies and gentlemen. TC's World of Wonders, Bridges Scoreboard, Budget Jet Cars, River Street Tavern, Serendipity Ice Cream Parlor, our good friends, the number one name, the only name you need in fantasy sports, Underdog Fantasy, and of course the Worst Stadium Club. Thank you so much, friends, for your support. Thank you for talking sports with us, Mr. Chicago, Sean Lugo. What do you say we run it back next week?
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Go Cubs. Bear down.
Absolutely. Sean Lugo, your weekend assignment is to bring home a victory for the Cubs tomorrow. And my friends, your assignment this weekend is to have the best weekend. You deserve it so much. And until we meet again, friends, keep living your life like Hall of Famer Steve Mongo McMichael with everything you've got. This has been Chicago Sports Podcast, Monsters of the Madhouse. Have a great weekend, everybody.